Good evening, this is George Wallace here. I'd like to talk to you tonight about multiple feedbacks. This is an experience that we've just been through, and we find this whole process of multiple feedbacks quite frightening. The background to the story is we sold 6 items to somebody. They got in touch with us and told us what their addresses were, and they were a bit different and they're a bit weird. So we actually contacted them to ask what their address actually was. We were a bit worried as well, but we didn't want to send the item to the wrong address. Plus, it's quite a large order of 6 items, so we wanted to make sure we got it right, make sure we did our customer service well, and we didn't have any sort of problems at all. We had a chat with eBay, since we weren't quite sure exactly what to do with this person, and they weren't really being very helpful at all in their emails coming back again. So eBay said to us the best way of doing things is to actually state what you believe their address was. So we did this, and eventually we got something back which acknowledged this was the correct address, which is just fine. So you've got good acknowledgement, you know exactly what is going on and how everything's going to work. We did get this other things with it, which was a bit weird, talking about the fact that we were trying to change their order, but we weren't at all. We were just trying to find out where to actually send it to. We posted the order by registered post. That was it. Off it went. No more. That's fine, thank you. It's all gone. So the other night we were sitting watching a webinar by the Laptop Millionaire. It was quite good actually. And when it finished, we had a quick check, and just to find we'd be given 6 neutral feedbacks. Like, wow, this is different. This is new. Never had this before. So, as you do as per any time, is you give eBay a quick ring and you have a chat with them. The feedback we got was in German, and it said the order was okay, but there was slight damage to items. This was for 6 items. Now, we're pretty careful with wrapping items, and the chances of 6 items being damaged at once is pretty low. I know people like Royal Mail and the German Postal Service may actually go and drop something and stand on it or something like that and smash things, but you'd have thought that the customer would have come back again and said to you, there's a problem with this thing and we need to sort it out. This is how we would dealt with things. We're also aware that customers can complain about things that have broken the laws of physics, and eBay actually believes them, which we find very, very strange indeed, how they can do these sort of things. And even though you explain to eBay this is actually broken the laws of physics, doesn't seem to matter, customer's always right. In this case, we believe that eBay have a responsibility to sellers. If you're going to provide 6 neutral feedbacks or negative feedbacks, this has the potential to do a lot of damage to any business. Imagine someone's just started up and they've just sold 6 items to somebody. They've got something in the region of 40 or 50 feedbacks, and they get 6 neutral or negative feedbacks. They shut down. There's nothing at all there. It's just done. Business is gone. Therefore, I actually believe there should be some justification provided in giving a high number of feedbacks. I would reckon 2 would be okay, but when you go to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or more, or 20 or something like that, you should have to provide justification of why you're giving this feedback, and not be able just to say, I'm giving feedback, finished. We use the response to neutral feedback to say that we contacted the customer to resolve the problem, and we did contact the buyer, and there was no response first of all, and we continued to contact the buyer, and again and again and again. However, we do believe we did not send the order immediately. However, we believe that the fact we did not send the order immediately is probably the reason for the feedback. but we couldn't really tell because there was no actual correspondence from the buyer at all to say what the problem was. We just got these neutral feedbacks. The buyer responded, and they said the order had been perfect. If we go back a second, we can see that we said it was okay, but there was slight damage to items. We had not sent the order, and we should have sent it immediately, is what we were told in the email. But if you send it out immediately and it goes to the wrong place, you end up getting neutral or negative feedback because it's gone to the wrong place. Sounds like you can't win much here. We contacted eBay. The conversation went on for in the region of about 40 minutes about this. I was not very happy about the fact that we'd be given these neutral feedbacks, and eBay seemed a bit sort of reticent about taking the thing off. Not very happy about it at all, really, you know. But eventually, they took the 6 neutral feedbacks off. Now, I'd like to know, would eBay do the same thing to a buyer? If they had 6 problems that some seller had done, and they had something they had to do, would they do the same thing? I wonder. So this really is a double-edged sword. The problem is, if you send the order to the wrong address, you end up with a negative and neutral feedback. It would seem if you ask where to send item, you seem to ask where to send feedback, and you get neutral feedback. Well, not good at all, is it? Believe there to be some sort of set of guidelines that actually protects sellers on eBay. If someone can give 6 neutral feedbacks with no real justification, this shouldn't be allowed. If you can give 2, that's probably fair enough, or 1, that's quite fair. But when you go above 2, then you should be able to give justification, and it shouldn't be, well, the eBay guessing as to why you've got this neutral feedback. There should be justification of exactly what the problem is. And before you even give them, you should have to contact the seller to agree with this. eBay staff just guessed it had been broken when it arrived. Why should the buyer be held responsible for a broken item? We've got no idea. Doesn't sound very good at all. And the eBay staff seemed to have no idea what actually happened, and all they wanted you to do was to go and find out what happened. They didn't seem to want to know much about it at all, which I didn't find very good. And I find that if someone is going to give this number of feedbacks, it shouldn't really be allowed like this at all. There should be a rule on eBay that for a high number of neutral or negative feedbacks, you have to provide justification. I'd like to have heard this woman say, well, the order was perfect, but it was late in coming. And the customer was asking questions, silly questions, like, where do I send it to? That sounds really good, doesn't it? Proof should be provided in the rationale for providing neutral or negative feedback. And if there's more than one neutral or negative feedback, then you should have to give justification. The feedback process, which I'll remind you of again, is very, very simple. Whenever you get any sort of neutral or negative feedback, always reply to it. No insults, no abuse, just be very, very polite, even though you may not feel that well, that way at all. Can you imagine how somebody would feel if they've just got 6 negative feedback, thinking, this is horrendous. You try to think, what am I supposed to do about this? And you feel like writing a really terrible thing down about what you just feel like, how it's really bad, and how you shouldn't be allowed to do that. But you don't. You have no insults, no abuse, nothing at all. You always contact the buyer who gave you the neutral and negative feedback, and you wait for their response. If they don't respond, you keep on contacting them until you get a response. This shows eBay that you're trying to resolve the feedback. It's good in their eyes because you're trying to do something. The seller may be doing nothing at all, and you may find that if you work hard enough and show you're doing these things, the feedback may just get removed. It may not get removed, but it might get removed. You need to keep in contact with eBay about this. You want to prove to them that you're a really good seller. And the way of doing that is to show that you're working with customers. You want to talk to customers, you want to work with customers. The buyer should be providing justification for a neutral or negative feedback, not just dumping it in there. If the seller ignores a buyer, you get reported to eBay and you may get a negative feedback. If a seller contacts a buyer, asks the questions, they can be ignored. Nothing happens. Doesn't seem to be quite fair, does it? Thank you very much indeed. This was a very interesting experience. I would like to go through it again, and I found the whole process to be very frightening, in that you can get all these feedbacks and there's no justification required whatsoever, and it's up to you to try and solve it all. eBay just quite simply tells you to sort it out and stands back again. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope to speak to you again very soon. Bye.